Here we are. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you with us here today. It is a very fall-like Wednesday in South Bend as we get a little bit closer to Notre Dame and Southern Cal this Saturday night, 7:30 at Notre Dame Stadium, 7:30 Eastern time, of course. And the game day experience from the linebacker begins at 3 o'clock, 3 to 6:30. I just got new word today. A new guest is lined up. The guests include former Notre Dame and Indianapolis Colts safety Matthias Farley, former Fighting Irish linebackers Torian Smith and Carlo Calabrese will also be there. So join Tim, Jim, Eric, and Tyler, 3 to 6:30 at the linebacker. You probably don't know who Kay Adams is, do you, Vince?
Negative.
She used to be on Good Morning Football, very good host. She now hosts her own show called Up and Adams, where she does a lot of NFL interviews and NFL talk and things like that. Kay Adams, though, I've seen her on social media the last couple of days, is going to be at the Notre Dame game this weekend.
Oh.
And she was looking for advice about the best tailgates to stop by for food. And it's like, well, everybody's got food. I don't know who exactly is the best. And then she was asking today who she needs to talk to get into the linebacker. So,
I mean, the bouncer? Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know when you're going there, Kay, but the linebacker's open all day, and if they'll let in Tim, Jim, Eric, and Tyler, they will let you in. I guarantee that.
The last thing I would ever think about when I think about the linebacker, where I had spent a few evenings in my youth, is VIP. Like, it's not something that, like, it's not you don't think like this is a special place when you walk in there. It's kind of stick to the floor.
You don't. It's just pretty much your run-of-the-mill bar, but it happens to be sitting right next to Notre Dame, and it's called the linebacker. So there you go.
Exactly correct. So you can go in there and
you have to be fancy. Just
correct.
Beers and pool and whatever else.
Beers, pool, and lack of personal space. That's what you're going to get at the linebacker in the evening time.
There you go.
So
there you go.
If that's your bag, baby, then that's where you want to be.
Michael appreciates Bobby taking the cheap shots at me. Bobby and I have our special back and forth. So
yeah, that's fair.
Tommy says that Bobby can kick rocks. That's fair too. You know? Like, everyone's got their own flavor, is what it is.
I mean, the first time I ever met Bobby, he was throwing jabs in my direction. So.
He's good at it. He comes out swinging.
He does. He does. So I don't feel bad when we swing in his direction. I really don't. And he's not here to defend himself, so it's even better.
That's exactly right. I like it when he gets offended when I go at him first, like he's Mr. Innocent,
right?
Bobby Hensley. So, by the way, it has been pointed out to me that a four-leaf clover is not a shamrock. I know it's not a shamrock. You know, just like chocolate and vanilla, they're both ice creams. I know the difference between the two. They're both delicious, but, you know, they're similar but different, just like a four-leaf clover and a shamrock. I know that they are different. You know, someone suggested that we use a four-leaf rating system when we do shamrock up, shamrock down on Tuesdays. So I gave it a shot yesterday, and then more than one person pointed out a four-leaf clover is not a shamrock. So it sounded like a fun idea. We kind of sort of did it. I don't want to offend anyone's pedantic sensibilities, though, so we don't have to go down that road in the future. You know, I don't know. Like, I was working at the library today, doing a little work, pretty quiet, peaceful in the library. All of a sudden, I hear this old lady go, "Don't those kids know they're supposed to be quiet in the library?" And then I kind of looked around, and I'm like, now that you mention it, there were some, the distant voices of joyful kids off in the distance.
Joyful kids
in the library, but all I could hear was grumpy old lady complaining about the joyful kids at some other place in the library. So go figure.
It's unfortunate.
Each his own is what I'm saying.
Yes, that's a fact. And the problem is kids these days, this is how this is off. They don't really have the same respect for a library that we had in the past because they don't go to libraries. Like, it's not, I don't know. And I don't say that in a negative way. It's just like in the school libraries, there's hardly any books anymore because everything's digital and online. And It's just a different world we live
There
in.
were a lot of books where I was sitting. Maybe the kids were in the tech area or something. Maybe they were too wound up by all the, the blue screens or whatever else. Salty says, I just like to go to the library to leer at the undergrads. I was not on campus. I was not in that library. I was just your run-of-the-mill little public library a couple miles from where I live.
Yep.
Doing a little work this afternoon. So
hey, libraries have a lot to offer. It's a favorite place
they do.
to go.
I discovered a while back, like it's a nice, like especially since I work from home so often, it's nice. Coffee shops every once in a while. I'll stop by Meyer, like in their deli area, or the Martins in the deli area, just to shake it up a little bit. And the library is kind of a mix it up place when I don't feel like smelling coffee and listening to a bunch of other people, except for joyful kids and grumpy old ladies yelling at them. So
I feel like I get that at school every day.
Yeah, that's fair. I didn't think about it that way from your aspect. Okay, so it's Mailbag Day.
Yes.
And we have a few that have been submitted in the Champions Lounge. We have a slew of them from Salty and Tommy that have also been submitted here in the YouTube chat. Let's see if I can find a good starting point. And whoop, where did it go? There you are. My screen kind of went weird there for a second. Oh, boy. Hold on just a second here. What am I doing?
Oh, you got to do your Zoom.
Going to have to do this. And now I'm going to have to Does the font look a little bit bigger there?
It does.
Okay. Here we go.
There we go. Look at that.
Domer Gris. Since Southern Cal would never agree to playing Notre Dame game during rivalry weekend every year, and front-loading our schedule by playing Southern Cal in early September every year is not ideal. What do you think about a compromise where every other year the game is played at Notre Dame in September and in Los Angeles in November?
It's not much different than what it is now. They play in October now, and when they go to LA, they play in November. So, I mean, I don't think that's any different than really what it is now. So, sure. Why not?
I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I think the thing is to make it work because of the fact, if you look at some of the future schedules, September already is front loaded, with some premier teams.
Heavy hitters.
Yeah, be it Alabama or I'm trying to think of, Michigan is going to be on there in a few years.
Hoosiers. Don't forget about the Hoosiers. Yeah. They're going to be on there.
Texas, I said heavy hitters, but Texas is coming on. They're a heavy hitter now. I'm not. Vince doesn't mind that jab.
No, I don't. I'm here for it.
But there are some, there are some schedules that are already going to have a couple formidable opponents in September, so it might not work out. So what might need to happen is this becomes an intermittent series, kind of like Michigan was, where like you would play them most years where it makes sense. You might have to skip a year or two to, just like to keep the series going to some extent. I know some people are getting upset because no kind of extension has been announced yet and all these concessions that you have to make. And, I mean, that's part of negotiating, and, going to the negotiating table is there have to be some concessions. If you want to keep it going, Notre Dame might have to concede a couple things. It's looking like it's not going to stay the way it is now in October, October one year, November the next. And that's fine. But again, I think that to keep it going, you might have to just kind of come to grips with the fact that it's not going to be annual. But if you're playing it 7 or 8 out of every 10 years, I think that that's still a success.
I am not going to be okay if it's not every year. I'm very much.
Oh, Vince is going to be mad. Okay.
But I do feel like both parties at this point are all for keeping this thing going. I do think there's some small details that they're trying to hash out, but just with Lincoln Riley and the way he's pretty much changed his tune, when asked about the rivalry and things like that, leads me to believe that their side is all for it. Notre Dame is obviously, they've always been all for it. I just feel like there's a couple of small things that they're trying to figure out, and it's probably when they're going to play and where they're going to play and all of those, and that's fine. I honestly could give a rip about when and where they play. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, me too. Me
I just
too.
want to see them play.
And again, like if it becomes intermittent, it's going to be because that's the way Notre Dame wants it. Because, as people are pointing out, some of the September schedules that Notre Dame already has lined up. And if that's, it's going to depend. Okay. Because right now it is odd number years in South Bend. So those would be the September years. Even number years, Los Angeles, that would still be November if USC is willing to make that happen. Or is it going to be September every year? I don't know. I think these are some of the things that they're trying to work through, because as Jen Cohen, their athletic director, has talked about, the fact she started complaining about the fact, well, we've got to play rivalry games and back-to-back weekends. Well, again, in even number years, it's been like that for going on a century. For the most part, there were, like early on in this rivalry, USC actually used to come out to Chicago and South Bend and play in November and even December at some points, but that went away a long time ago. So this thing has changed over years. The question is going to be, how much do both sides actually value it to be able to work together and make something happen, even if it's not ideal for both sides?
That excuse is for the birds as far as playing back-to-back rivalry games. Like, how many rivalry trophies does Notre Dame own right now? There's like 5 or 6.
Yeah, I mean, right? There were years where you would go Michigan State, Purdue, Michigan. 3 games in a row for Notre Dame. Right. Those are all rivorry games for Notre Dame.
Everybody that plays Notre Dame calls it a rivalry. Exactly. See Stanford. Okay, so you play them back-to-back. Who cares? Who cares? I don't see why having back-to-back tough games is a thing that would break this rivalry and this scheduling deal apart.
I'm Tenzin. I'm the son of Aang says it's too rough traveling to another part of LA for those UCLA. By the way, since USC joined the Big Ten last year, the only road game they've won in Big Ten play at UCLA last year. That's the only road game they've won in Big Ten play.
Which is down the road. So good job, guys.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, I guess that's why it's tough playing back-to-back rivalry games, because you can't go to Westwood or you can't go out to Pasadena, I guess, where the Rose Bowl is, and win a game. From Darvis, Marcus Freeman being named for every possible coaching opening is more media-driven or agent-driven?
Oh, I think it's media-driven. I really do. I don't think his agent is out there pushing his name. Didn't he just sign a contract extension? I know the agent's job is to always get his client more money. I get that. This is all media driven. Like some of these lists that these media people are putting out, they do no research whatsoever. They just take, okay, who are the top coaches in college football? I'm going to put them on a list.
Who's the low-hanging fruit? Yeah.
And I'm going to say that Penn State is going to go after all of them. These would be the best people for the job. It's nonsense. It's nonsense.
I don't know that it's all nonsense. I do think that as Marcus Freeman continues to have success at Notre Dame, he is going to come up in all these coaching searches for these other big jobs, because they're all these schools, rightfully so, are going to look at Marcus Freeman and say, look what he did last year. He beat Georgia and Penn State in back-to-back weekends, got to a national championship game, and ended up, made a much closer game of that than any, big stage game that Brian Kelly was able to do in his 12 years at Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman has obviously advanced Notre Dame, taken him to the next level. So I think that all these schools, if Florida comes open, if Florida State comes open, Penn State is obviously open right now, it makes sense for them to kick the tires at the very least on Marcus Freeman, because he is a very desirable candidate. But I think that a lot of it is media-driven. To answer this question, much more media-driven than agent-driven. I don't think Marcus Freeman's agent is out there shopping him for this. But you had a high-profile job come open, and just like Vince said, it's low-hanging fruit. Marcus Freeman is going to be one of the first names that come to mind. What's the big, what was the difference in Notre Dame and Penn State last year? Marcus Freeman's coaching was a big difference.
Yeah, his hairline too, apparently, was really.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It's just interesting to me to see what people are saying about the Penn State job and how it's this elite job and all of these different things. I think that's the debate. Is this an elite job? That's the question. Like when it came open 12 years ago and James Franklin got the job, was it considered an elite job? Was he an elite hire when he got the job, or did he bring it to elite status and now he got fired? And so is it still like, I think that's a debate that is worth.
But it's also the same debate people were having about Notre Dame before Brian Kelly got here. Like,
I agree.
Like it's, as we've said many times, Kelly and Franklin are literally the same guy. And when you look at where the programs were, Penn State and Notre Dame, before Franklin and Kelly got there, they definitely elevated it. But now the question for Penn State, again, like why would Penn State be interested in Marcus Freeman? Because Marcus Freeman took Notre Dame to the next level. He elevated beyond Brian Kelly. I think they, obviously decided, especially when you start losing to 20-point underdogs in back-to-back weeks, they decided that James Franklin had taken Penn State as far as they could go, and they need, that Marcus Freeman type, whoever it is, to take them to the next step, to actually start winning those big games.
I agree. The difference between Notre Dame when they hired Marcus Freeman and Penn State now is Penn State fired their coach. You know what I mean? Like,
true.
I don't know. I think it's a debate worth having, and it very well may come out that we would consider Penn State an elite job. I'm just curious as if it is, because they weren't anything special when James Franklin took the job, to your point, right? And
I mean, that was also special circumstances because of everything that happened with Joe Paterno and all the things that happened there with the Sandusky sanctions and stuff like that. No one wanted to touch that job. Bill O'Brien began to elevate it before he went off to the NFL. And, so James Franklin, he had only had success. He had success for a couple years at Vanderbilt. So he was, a pretty hot commodity, but to get a job like that. And again, like the reason Penn State was in the state that it was in, there had been some deterioration under Paterno, but at the same time, because of that whole scandal, that's where things really bottomed out for Penn State. That's why a lot of people didn't want to touch it for a while.
And I don't disagree with that. That was obviously very much a valley for the Penn State program.
Yeah.
And you had Joe Pa there for as long as he did. Was it an elite job when he was there, or did it just become like, well, Joe Pa's been there forever and he's a really good coach? You know what I mean? Like, they don't have an arsenal of national championships in their back pocket. I don't know. I don't know if Penn State is an elite job. That's all I'm saying.
So I'll tell you what, I don't want to get stuck on this because
I get it.
We do have we'll kind of get back into it a little bit in rapid fire so we don't get bogged down on it right now. And we can kind of resume that conversation in rapid fire so that we get to some other questions. Domer Grizz is asking if the Dan Patrick Show will be broadcasting live from Notre Dame this weekend. That is the understanding that I have. That is the word that I got today. We got no official word from the Dan Patrick Show, even though this station, Sports Radio WSBT, is a Dan Patrick Show affiliate. From what I understand, they are going to be broadcasting here next couple days. So
interesting. Outside and like the elements?
Apparently so.
Okay, good luck. Supposed to rain.
Tents, whatever.
Okay.
Gotta do what you gotta do. Tommy Guns, we'll answer this one before we take a break. Tommy Guns wants to know who has the advantage in the trenches. He says speaking of what Vince was talking about, thinks it's supposed to be wet on Saturday.
I think it being wet on Saturday is an absolute advantage for Notre Dame. I mean, look, USC wants to go out and sling the rock all over the place, right? That's their MO. Look, Notre Dame wants
down to their 19th running back as well. So
Notre Dame obviously wants to throw the ball too. But if we're just talking about running games and trenches and those kinds of things, Notre Dame has a clear-cut advantage to me. Like, this makes a bigger chasm between Notre Dame and USC if it's going to rain the entire game.
USC beat Michigan in the trenches last week, so I think that maybe they're thinking, have we turned a corner? Like, is this who we are? Because between the two, you expect a lot more physicality from the Michigan side than from the USC side. But I think that you can also look at Michigan and say, well, they've taken a couple steps back since their national championship season a couple of years ago. They're not quite that same kind of, they still want to be built in the trenches. There are a lot of things that Michigan doesn't do well, including consistently throw the football. You expected them to be more physical. But I think USC, for the first time, probably feels like they won a physical battle. Notre Dame should be the more physical team. Traditionally, they have been the more physical team, but there have also been kind of some question. We've looked at both sides of Notre Dame's lines and said, how physical really is Notre Dame's offensive line? Why aren't they winning more on 3rd and short and 4th and short, on those offensive short yardage situations? And the defensive line has definitely taken strides forward. The offensive line has taken strides forward. I think Notre Dame has the advantage in the trenches, especially when you combine the fact that they do have Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. Big checkmark advantage for Notre Dame.
I hope if I'm a Notre Dame coach, I hope that USC comes into this matchup thinking that they've got an advantage and they're going to be the tougher team. Be careful what you wish for, is what I would say to that. Like, come on. If that's the game they want to play, I think that plays right into the hand of Notre Dame.
You're playing into Notre Dame hands in that aspect. Exactly. And it's going to be cooler. It's going to be in the 50s. This is a true Midwestern type game. If it's cold and rainy, or, at least, 50s and even into the 40s and rainy, that's an advantage for Notre Dame for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Without a shadow of a doubt. Let's take a timeout. When we come back, more Notre Dame football mailbag questions. They are stacked up, lined up, and ready to go. We've got more than we know what to do with now today. With Vince DeDario, Sean Stires, Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com continues, along with Vince DeDario. I'm Sean Stires. Notre Dame football mailbag day on the show. We're answering Notre Dame questions from listeners, both from the Champions Lounge Premium subscription board and our live YouTube chat on the Irish Breakdown YouTube channel, as well as the Sports Radio WSBT YouTube channel. So all he wants to know, is Jesse's honeymoon over? It is not. They are in Bordeaux, France, as we speak. Tommy Gunn says, true or false? Jesse makes an appearance in the chat today. I'm going to say probably not, because it's tonight. They called from France right before I was coming over here, and I can't remember if it's today or tomorrow. They're doing this big wine. I think it's tomorrow. They're doing this big wine tour. But
I mean, they're in the right part of the country.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Right part of the world.
Yeah.
For that matter.
They will be flying back to the States on Friday, and then they've got another wedding to go to on Saturday. Tommy wants to know, over under 2.5 successful hurdles by Jeremiah Love Saturday.
Under. I don't think he is doing it as much, and the film is out there, folks. Guys aren't going low anymore.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the last actually successful hurdle that he had.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, because he's talked about the fact that guys are kind of standing upright now, trying to take away the hurdle. And he actually said he prefers that to the fact that so many guys were trying to go at his knees. So take that a little bit. I think it's a little bit overboard with the hurdle. Sometimes you can't get yourself out of every problem with a hurdle. But the other part of that is he doesn't mind the contact either. Like he doesn't mind lowering the shoulder. I think that maybe that's sometimes why he hasn't had more success in some of those short yardage situations. It's almost like he's looking for the contact rather than trying to just slither through guys, in some of those situations.
Yeah, a hurdle isn't always the best choice, the best option. So, I agree with you. And a couple of times that he's hurdled recently, it's been like, ooh, like it just doesn't – it's not aesthetic, and it's not super effective. So I would say let's try something different.
Salty wants to know, with the golden one, Tay and Mark Zachary seeing time on the field, why hasn't J-Dog Blair seen more playing time? Well, I asked Marcus Freeman a couple weeks ago on one of his Thursday Zooms about Jadon Blair and kind of where he is, because he was in training camp. It appeared that he was close to being in the rotation. And basically the answer Marcus Freeman gave is he's not as ready to go as these other guys who are playing right now. And they're not just going to throw him on the field to throw him on the field. They want him to be able to carry out his assignment. So I have no idea, or no doubt, once he gets on the field, he's going to be good once he gets there, but they're not going to push him out there before he's ready when they don't need to, especially when you've got guys like Schuler and Johnson playing as well as they are right now. You don't need to rush Blair out there.
Yeah, they've got 4 safeties that they're rotating right now in some form or fashion. So they rarely, in the time that we've been covering Notre Dame, I don't really remember them going to a 5th safety. So that's a tough lineup to crack, and I don't see that being the case. So, they're going 4 deep. You don't really want to go that much deeper when you're talking about the safety rotation.
Yes.
And he's probably the 5th guy. I mean, most likely he's probably the 5th guy. But again, they're probably not going to go past 4.
Yeah. True freshman, very talented freshman. But again, you got to be able to do your job before they're going to put you out there. They've had enough problems, you may have noticed, in the secondary this year. You don't want to create other problems by putting in a guy who you're not confident is fully ready to go. Freeman said he's just not where those other guys are right now. Someone was asking about the time difference in France. They are 6 hours ahead of us over there. So, Domer Grizz, what's your favorite memory from the Notre Dame Southern Cal rivalry? Mine is Fuller over the top against Adoree Jackson to start the game in 2015, as well as the No Moss beatdown in 2017.
Well, we're going to talk about it a little bit later, so I don't want to jump the gun on my memories, but the answer for me is the 2005 game, even though it ended poorly for Notre Dame. That is the one I remember the most, although I do absolutely remember the Adoree Jackson burn show on the first play. I just remember yelling, at the field at that time and being very excited about that particular play. But the 05 game is just seared into my memory.
Yes. And thanks for the clarification, USMA 87. We are obviously on Eastern time here in South Bend. So the 6-hour time difference I was speaking of from here in France is from Eastern time, not from, Pacific or Mountain or Central. So I would just say the 60-yard punt return by Tommy Z in the Bush Push game. I think that gets forgotten a little bit because of the ending, but that was just the crowd was just fevered pitch when Zibikowski took that back. And I think that when he did, it's like, okay, Notre Dame is here to stay in this game. This is going to be a knockdown drag out. And that's exactly what it turned out to be. Unfortunately, it didn't go Notre Dame's way, but Zibikowski's punt return was awesome.
Like, I remember bits and pieces of the Florida State Notre Dame game, like the surrounding antics, you know what I mean? As far as just the city and the hype around it. I remember that slightly. I absolutely remember it in the 05 USC Notre Dame game. So it was like you could just feel everything about that game for like 48 hours prior to the game, during the game, like
game day was here. There was just all kinds of build up for that game.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I just remember it. I just remember that all just so well.
Joe Allen asks, do you think the rainy weather forecast for Saturday night helps or hinders Notre Dame? And what's your first play against Southern Cal?
Well, we kind of discussed that, and I think it helps Notre Dame. I do. I think Notre Dame would be fine with a black and blue type, let's run the football, throw it when we want to kind of a game. I think they'd be fine with that. As far as the first play, honestly, a little play action is what I would do. I go play action and I go right over the top.
I like play action right off the bat as well. It worked a couple of games ago, obviously, on that deep shot to Malachi Fields. That's not necessarily going to always be there because I think the teams have to sit on that a little bit more now. But you go play action, someone's going to be open because they're all anticipating Jeremiah Love.
Especially if it's raining.
Yeah. Yeah. And like when you look at this question, who does it favor? I think you have to ask yourself, do you have more confidence in a Midwestern kid who grew up even farther north of South Bend, up in Michigan, like CJ Carr and the way he's played so far? Do you trust that or Jade Mailava, in that kind of weather? I mean, Mailava's a great quarterback. He's shown that, but I would trust the guy who grew up in, in crappy weather playing in it. And I also would have more faith in Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price taking the ball out of the backfield if it's a wet night than King Miller and Brian Jackson, the 19th and 20th running backs on USC's roster because of all these injuries they've got at the position. So I'm a lot more confident in Notre Dame's running game than USC's running game in this matchup.
No, absolutely. And yes, I'm very well aware that the USC kid had a good day against Michigan. That's awesome. Good for him. Proud of him. I'm sure his family's proud of him. But I hope that's the game plan against Notre Dame because they've been very stout against the run the last few games.
I'm sure his family is very proud of him.
Yes, very proud.
ND Sailor asks, with the lack of success on fourth down conversions and the improvement in Noah Burnett's leg, will Notre Dame attempt more field goals or not this week?
Honestly, and I know this is maybe a chicken out answer, it depends on the weather. The operation is sometimes a little bit more difficult when it's raining. And so it depends on how hard the rain is, the wind, all of those things I think come into play here. But
if it's 4th and 2 at the 20, like it felt like it was a bunch of times last week, Marcus Freeman opted to go for it. Obviously, the only time it worked out was when they were at their own 38 with the Tyler Buckner fake.
I think
if you're at the 20, that's what, a 37, 38-yard field goal? You've got to be pretty confident in that.
anything 40 and in, I think Burnett is going to be just fine. I don't really have any issue with that. Probably 45 and in. But again, the elements will come into play. But I do think Marcus Freeman kind of takes a page out of the Campbell playbook from Detroit. I think he enjoys going for it, to be perfectly honest with you.
He enjoys going for it, but the question is, does he need to be going for it right now with the team that has shown they're only converting like 35% of their fourth downs right now after completing converting 73% of their fourth downs last year? Maybe the averages and the numbers change at some point, but it doesn't feel like he needs to be going for it as much as he is right now, considering his team has shown him more times than not that they're not capable of picking up those yards right now.
Well, those numbers aren't going to change unless he starts going for it some more.
That's true. But you can also dig yourself a hole and end up, at 25% or whatever.
I do think that the point in the game is important. What's the score? What's the time? All of those different things. I mean, if you've got, a 1-score lead, kick it, get some extra, get 3 points. Like, I have no problem with that. You know what I mean? For me personally, a lot of the fourth down stuff is kind of gut feeling, what are you feeling about the game right now? And Decaf is absolutely correct. The fourth down play calling has been terrible.
It's been some of Mike Denbrock's worst play calling period since he became offensive coordinator here. I don't know because like Trevor and I were talking about this yesterday, even the Malachi Fields, the interception in the end zone where Malachi Fields was interfered with, but they picked up the flag. You roll CJ Carr out to the right, and that's his only receiver in front of him. There are 3 defenders chasing Malachi Fields. You're giving him nothing underneath as a safety valve, nothing intermediate. It's just 3-on-1 back there. You've got to give CJ Carr something else if you're going to roll him out like that, because he's not Riley Leonard, and he's not just going to take off running with it.
Well, and I didn't like that call at all. You said it all. I have nothing to add because it was a bad play call, and I
don't mind rolling him out, but you got to give him more than just one guy.
100%. And you also can't count on a flag to bail you out. You know what I mean? So just not a good play call at all.
Salty, Jaden Greathouse's biggest fan, asks how worried we are that Greathouse will follow some of his advisors' input to not play another game to preserve eligibility to transfer. This is something that a lot of fans, I don't know that is actually a thing, but I will say a lot of fans are worried about this, that could be what's going on.
I'm not. That's the first time I've ever heard that, and it's the first time I've ever crossed my mind. I would not have put any stock into that particular theory, that fan fiction, for me. So I think as soon as he's healthy, he's playing again, personally.
See, all we needed was to get Vince back so he could scold fans.
Yep.
Their mailbag question.
Let's say he does have advisors and they're advising him to do, are they telling other people that they're advising him of that? Like, where do they come up with this stuff?
Right.
That's my thing.
Like, would advisors be walking around talking about the fact?
Right. Well, I just advised Jaden Greathouse to sit out the rest of the year to preserve that year of eligibility. Well, who are you? I don't know. It just seems a little far-fetched, but this day and age, man, I wouldn't put it past anybody. This day of NIL and all of those different things.
He did it last year. No, he didn't. He wasn't on the injury report. He just 4 games and that was it.
Yeah, I don't see it. We'll see, but I don't see it.
Michael's asking, didn't they roll Carr out to the short side? They did. They rolled him out to the boundary as well. We'll take our last time out this hour and then back to answer some more Notre Dame football mailbag questions as we dig deep and get ready for Notre Dame USC coming up this Saturday night, Notre Dame Stadium, 7:30 kickoff. You'll hear it here on Sports Radio WSBT and the Notre Dame Radio Network, including the Odyssey app. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com continues. Sean Stires, Vince DeDario answering Notre Dame football mailbag questions for another few minutes before we roll into the 6 o'clock hour and some rapid fire. A lot of stuff coming up in rapid fire today. Tommy in the YouTube chat asks, Al Golden was willing to give up rushing yards and focused on stopping the pass game. Does Notre Dame take the same approach this year? What do you think about that?
I don't think that they've shown that they're going to do that. I thought that they've been pretty stout against the run now that they've kind of figured out what their philosophy is going to be. And I think that they're going to commit some resources to the run game. I don't think it's going to be all about the pass game.
I don't know philosophically what Chris Ash is trying to do. That's
I don't think it's his philosophy, so I'll say that.
Fair. Even though, I don't know if you heard about, his press conference yesterday.
I heard.
We haven't changed anything. We're just doing it better.
He must.
Okay.
He must just think we're just all a bunch of pansy idiots who can't watch football.
Look at the 8 ball.
Yeah.
All signs point to yes.
he's like, look at this over here. Look at this over here.
Chris Ash and David Putty, were they separated at birth? I mean,
gosh. Somebody should get him the Magic 8 Ball jacket. See if he'll wear it to a press conference.
I mean, that's what I would do because, again, the situation, like the place that USC's running back room is in right now with these injured running backs that they've got, their best guys are injured. Wayman Jordan is injured. Eli Sanders is injured. And combined, those two guys all, have over 800 yards and 7 touchdowns right now. King Miller has put together some good numbers, but he's a former walk-on, and Brian Jackson is going to be a guy that they're relying on as well. I mean, they got fined last week because the Big Ten makes them turn in an injury report, and they submitted the guy as out, and then they played him in the game because they ran out of running backs. Because like they did, he literally came off the bench at halftime after he was supposed to be out for the game and decided that he was going to play. So I would be willing to concede some rushing yards, considering who they have in the backfield, especially, and the fact that you do have Mayava and, some very talented, explosive wide receivers. I would be willing to do that. But again, like when you look at the plan of attack and the way that Chris Ash has gone about this, he hasn't necessarily shown that would be his plan of attack. So,
but you're right. What is their plan of attack? What's their philosophy? Hard to say. I agree with you on that one.
Yeah. ND Forever 72 says confidence level Notre Dame defense holds SC to 24. Let me start this over. Confidence level that the Notre Dame defense holds SC to 24 points or less. A much better D gave up 35 last year.
It's a really good question. I think that the Notre Dame offense is better than they were last year. I think they will do a better job of possessing the football. So I think USC will not get as many opportunities to score 35. And you got to remember some of the points that Notre Dame scored were pick sixes. So they got the ball back quickly and, they were able to possess the football. USC is what I'm referring to. So my confidence level, scale of 1 to 10, they can hold them to 24 or less. I will put it at like a 6.5. For now.
That's kind of the range I'm in, around a 6. That would be my confidence. I feel very comfortable that if they do hold SC to 24 points, they're going to win this game. Yes. I think that's kind of that's really my line is like that 24 points. Even 30, I think is probably manageable because I think that Notre Dame will be closer to 40 than to 30. But it's a 6. They have been fairly average against some fairly average teams, like look at what they did against Illinois a couple of weeks ago. Look, even, like Michigan, I think we can pretty confidently say was pretty overrated, but they only had one loss. And, so they were ranked where they were 15th, I think, before last week's USC game. So I think that if Notre Dame has a really good shot of holding them to 24, and if they do, they're going to win this game. He also says confidence level, the red zone issues go away Saturday night. That's for the offensive side of the ball.
I don't know that that's a switch that you can flip. It might be kind of a better this week, hopefully better the next week, kind of a deal. But really, it just comes down to play calling. If they call the right plays, I don't think we have this issue in the first place.
Bracket cover 3, and I agree with you. Like until it changes, there's always going to be a concern because those opening drives, they've done so well, moving the ball down the field, and all of a sudden the drive just stalls, and the next thing you know, you're without points, or it's been pretty baffling. Like between the 20s, they are great, but the play calling changes. It gets a lot more conservative, which is also interesting considering you do have a suspect kicker, like even if you were going to kick a field goal, because it's one thing where you see coaches, Jason Garrett was the king of this, so ask him about his philosophy. Once they cross midfield, it's like, okay, let's downshift, baby. We're getting close to field goal range now. Like, we don't want to not get that 3 points. So, yeah. But it's concerning until they show that they can change it. It's going to continue to be concerning. Bracket cover 3 asks, one concern I have going into the USC ND game is that dynamic Mekhi Lemon. Of course, their slot receiver lining up out of the slot. I would put our All-American cornerback Leonard Moore on him and man-to-man 50% of the time. What are the other options trying to slow him down? What do you think Notre Dame is going to do to slow him down?
Well, I don't think they're going to move a corner to nickel. I don't see that being the case. I think that what they would do.
There's a comment from Marcus Freeman coming up.
I'll see
that might say a little bit differently,
and that's fair. What I'm saying is I wouldn't be upset about that.
Okay,
but if you're going to stay within the framework of what they've been doing all year, you play a safety over the top. And you bracket them, you double team them. That's what you do to number one receivers. It doesn't matter where they line up. That's what you do. So, and you could do.
Tommy had a similar question. What type of coverage do you want to see against Lemon the most? More 1v1 shadow, Golden, and a safety bracket, Golden and safety and linebacker bracket, Golden 1v1 with possible help. And not to cut you off because you were
no. I was about to say that exact thing, is that I would be okay with Golden being on him with a safety over the top, but also a linebacker to take away the quick game over the middle. So that's what I would do. I would have, it's essentially a 3-on-1, but that's okay because I think you can do that and still be good everywhere else with what you've got.
Yes, I agree. I'm not going to add too much more to that because we're getting short of time here. I will just say that you can't make 100% of your attention on one guy because USC has shown, but that's why USC was successful last year, because they spread the ball around. They've always got talented receivers, and they've got a talented quarterback who can spread the ball around. You do need to give Mekhi Lemon extra attention, but you're right. Just safety help over the top is the biggest thing. And we still don't know as of right now if Devontae Smith is going to be healthy or not. If he is, that would be huge for Notre Dame to be able to defend Mekhi Lemon. If he's not, that's where you do. I think that lends itself more to do you maybe move Leonard Moore in there from time to time. But there's also give and take if you're going to move Moore in there, because then who have you got on the outside?
See,
in that case, wherever you move Moore, there's going to be a drop off to the next guy wherever he's not.
That's why I would still have Golden, a safety, and then a peaking linebacker kind of a deal, because then I don't have to worry about where Leonard Moore is. So that guy's locked down. And I really don't have to worry about, Christian Gray. I think he does a good job. So I would not invest all of my best players on one guy. I would not do that. I would spread it out a little bit, just like USC wants to spread it out a little bit.
Salty wants to know if alcohol sales at Notre Dame Stadium have been a positive, negative, or neutral event. I haven't heard anything negative, so I'll go with the net neutral.
I've just heard people are upset about the lack of selection and the cost, but what did you expect? It's
a sporting event selling alcohol. There's always going to be you're never, regardless of what sporting event that you go to, you're not going to, some ballparks have the craft beer places and stuff like that. This is the first year for alcohol sales at Notre Dame Stadium. They weren't going to have a beer garden out there. They're going to be a select few brands that they're selling. just be thankful they've got it. And you knew it was going to cost a lot because, again, you're buying alcohol at a sporting event.
Well, what I can say is some of the patrons who have been a bit overserved have been a little out of control. That I do know that there are some volunteer groups that usually run the concession stands that are they're no longer running the concession stand because it's not appropriate for kids to be there.
Oh, those kind of volunteer groups. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I will say that. So some of the patrons are overdoing it just a smidge.
Again, not surprising.
Not surprising at all.
And for a night game, I think that there'll be even more of that.
Yeah.
This weekend.
And I think Notre Dame needed to be a little more strategic about where they were putting youth concession stand workers. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, I mean, I have no idea what the whole process of the concession stand is, but if you're underage, you're not allowed to serve alcohol for one.
Correct. You can serve it if you're 19, but it does either way.
But under that age, yeah.
But they still get placed in places where they probably shouldn't be placed. Like, I don't know, the student section, things like that, where things are a little more rowdy. So, anyway,
very interesting. All right. Mm-hmm. Vince with some insight from the alcohol sales at the stadium. That's Mailbag. A lot of great questions in today's mailbag, and we will take a time out. Hour number 2 coming up. That means rapid fire. We'll talk a little Bush Push. We'll talk a little Marcus Freeman. We'll have some comments from Marcus Freeman. All depends on what kind of time we have. We've got a lot of things to talk about and only so much time to do it. But we do have until 7 o'clock. So that's coming up. Rapid fire, hour 2. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. It's hour number 2, Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com, and that can mean only one thing. Vince, are you ready for rapid fire?
You know it!
All right, let's go. Vince is fired up. Today, October 15th, 2025 is the 20-year anniversary, Vince, of the Bush Push game between Notre Dame and Southern Cal. The Trojans, of course, won 34-31. Does it make you feel good that we were both there, or does it just make you feel old knowing it was 20 years ago?
Oh, when I read that question, that was the biggest I'm old reality check that I've had in a really long time.
It is amazing.
20 years is a really long time, and I remember that game like it was yesterday. I remember standing next to you. I remember being on the sideline. I remember, I wouldn't use the word rushing the field, but we were on the field after that fumble on the other side of the sideline.
We were.
And
there was a lot of delirium. Notre Dame was rushing the field. Charlie Weiss was out on the field. Like, they all thought it was over.
100%. I remember looking to my left and seeing Charlie walking out onto the field to meet the other, Pete Carroll at midfield. And all of a sudden the PA announcer's like, everybody off the field. I'm like, wait, what? What is happening? Because, saw the fumble, saw the ball go in the air, like game over.
Vince and I were standing down on the field, on the sideline, around the 10-yard line of the end zone where everything happened, where the Bush Push actually happened. They weren't that far from us. Obviously the other side of the field was what we thought was the last play of the game, where Matt Leinart is, he's scrambling. They were inside the 5-yard line. He's trying to get to that far pylon, the far corner of the end zone. He gets thumped. I think it was Zibikowski who laid the wood on him, and the ball shoots out of there. It felt like the ball was just floating in the air forever, and then it finally came down out of bounds. The clock read 0, but of course it wasn't actually 0. They put 3 seconds back on the clock, and the Bush Push, Reggie Bush, pushed Matt Leinart into the end zone, which that time was not legal. But
illegal, breaking the rules, doesn't matter, whatever. But that game was over. The Bush Push should have never happened. The game was absolutely over at that point, but is what it is. I've said this before on shows in the past, but I've never gone from just absolute elation to absolute devastation in a shorter period of time than I did on that night.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Is there like a top memory, specific memory that stands out about that whole, whether it's that sequence or just the game in general for you?
It was that sequence. It was the coming down to the field, being down there for that final drive. I remember the pass to the Jarrett kid, thinking, oh my goodness.
Dwayne Jarrett, 4th and 9 from their own 26-yard line.
That's the play that that as a football person, I'm like, that was an amazing play. Because Matt Leinart just is the best throw of his lifetime. To drop that into Dwayne Jarrett's hands, it was amazing.
Charlie Weiss said afterwards, they threw a fade into 2 Tampa. You don't throw a fade into 2 Tampa, is what Charlie Weiss said. And they did. They completed it. Jarrett took it 60 yards and set up that final touchdown. It just felt, it was like the whole, we all thought it was over. And obviously, I think maybe Notre Dame thought it was over one play too soon as well. 4th and 9.
I know. So that's the play. I remember that play, obviously. I just remember the whole sequence being down there. It's a very unique experience being down in the field back when it was real grass. You can because the grass is all torn up and you can smell it and all that kind of stuff.
It was. And of course, Pete Carroll was complaining about it afterwards. The grass is so long and everything else. Rocky Rhodes in the YouTube chat is asking if it was hard to walk through the 15-inch grass.
It's pretty trampled down by the time we got down there, but
it was.
But I remember there was a crown in the field, so I couldn't see the peak of Matt Leinart when he went over to I just saw the ball come up in the air. You know what I mean? So that whole sequence of just walking on the field, then coming back off the field, and then watching the Bush Push. And
then the other thing, speaking of the ball in the air and when it came down, the other thing I remember from the press conference is Charlie Weiss talking about this was 2005. And so instant replay and replay reviews in college football were not commonplace back then. Both coaches had to agree to it to use it. If both coaches agreed in advance, they could use it. I remember Charlie Weiss saying Pete wouldn't agree to using instant replay, so they couldn't go back and look and find out for sure, in terms of the time on the clock after that ball was dislodged from Matt Leinart before it came down. They weren't able to do that.
That's a really good point. I didn't think about that. In my mind, I thought that was like way before replay, Stone Age type stuff, but
practically.
Yeah. I will never forget that day. I will never forget that day. I remembered the date forever. You know what I mean? Like, it's a date that will live in infamy in a sports context. That's for sure.
When we were doing the pregame show back then, and I remember the next week's show, because we were just, Notre Dame had been dominated for a couple of years by Carroll's USC. And this was, USC was the defending national champ. And they, Notre Dame was a heavy underdog. Like when you look at how those games played out, Charlie Weiss was never able to beat USC. That was one of 8 straight losses by Notre Dame to Pete Carroll's USC Trojans, but that was the closest game in that stretch. And something else Charlie Weiss said afterwards, I'll always be the coach who lost the greatest game,
right.
But they lost those 8 games to Pete Carroll by an average of 20 points a game. And that was the closest game that they played in that, at that point in that 8-game stretch, which is very amazing.
Oh, we were getting used to getting hammered by USC. I mean, look, they had some really historically good offenses, back then, and they had some really good defenses too. So they were hammering a lot of people. So, you kind of had to take it on the chin, but like that year just felt different. And I feel like that year might have gone a little bit different as well, if they had pulled that off.
Might have, but unfortunately, like where it turned out in the Fiesta Bowl, it was another lopsided loss to Ohio State. So I don't know that necessarily Notre Dame was ready to compete at the national stage. That obviously took a little bit. But what about the green jerseys in that game? I think aren't those the ones that you prefer? Like, do you like that shade of green that they wore for that game?
That's my favorite green jersey, is the dark green with the gold. I would love to see them do a bit of an homage to that jersey. It would obviously look different. They'd probably have the shinier gold and, that kind of a thing, which I do like, by the way. But I just like that darker green. That's my favorite green jersey that Notre Dame's ever done.
Yeah, I don't care for that green as much. I like the current green that they're wearing, but to each his own.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, it's all good. We can have all of the greens. You know what I mean? Give me every shade of green. Have them wear green a little more often. You know what I mean? I'm cool with that.
Absolutely. Okay. Fill in the blank, Vince. It's blank that On3 is reporting that Penn State Athletic Director Pat Kraft may make a run at Marcus Freeman to fill his coaching vacancy.
I think it's a compliment, to be perfectly honest with you. If that's his plan, I think you go down the list, right? You go down the list of all the successful coaches and you at least make a run at them. And the worst thing they can say is no. And I don't think you're doing your job if you don't do that. Look, the odds of the odds of Marcus Freeman going to Penn State are slim to none. You never want to say never, but they're slim to none. So, but if I'm the athletic director, if I'm the athletic director of Ball State, I'm calling every, major head coach, like, come on down, like take a swing.
Why not? Yeah.
Why not? So that's a compliment. Call them up.
No, it absolutely is. And if you're Penn State, one of the advantages of firing your coach 6 games into the season is now you have a full season to sit back and look, okay, this guy, I like this guy. We all know that Matt Rule is apparently at the top of the list because of the, his personal Penn State connection and the fact that he and Pat Kraft worked together back at Temple several years ago. But you can't focus on just one guy, and whoever you end up with at the end of the day, you want to be able to tell your alumni base, your donor base, all these people who are giving all this money, look, we talked to everybody we could. We reached out to Marcus Freeman. We reached out to Mike Elko, Matt Rule, Kurt Signet, whoever it happens to be. We reached, Dan Lanning out at Oregon. Why wouldn't you take a shot at Marcus Freeman? Because like I said before, I think when you look at one of the differences in the program right now, Notre Dame and Penn State played a very close Orange Bowl college football playoff semifinal last year. The difference in the programs was Marcus Freeman. So if I want to elevate my program and I'm Penn State, I think Marcus Freeman makes a lot of sense. But to your point, I think Marcus Freeman, when any of these high-profile jobs comes open, both college and in the NFL, his name's going to continue to come up for a lot of them. So I think that as Notre Dame fans, you've got to get used to it. But like you, Vince, I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon either.
Yeah, but again, make the call. I have zero problem with you making the call. None. Again, it's a compliment, so bring it on.
Yeah. Again, you've got to tell your donor base that you did everything you could. You did your complete due diligence and talking, exhausting every resource, turning over every stone to talk to everybody that you can in this search process, so that regardless of who you end up with at the end of this trail, you talk to everybody that you could along the way. Vince, Illinois fans are fired up because Notre Dame is ranked number 13 with 2 losses in this week's AP poll, but the 2-loss Illini are unranked. Is their beef legit?
No, their beef isn't legit because not all losses are created equal. Bottom line, right? I mean,
it's why they have scores in games, right?
Right, exactly. Look, Notre Dame lost. Look, they both have 2 losses. I get it. Notre Dame lost to the number 3 and number 5 team in the country by a total of 4 points, or whatever the numbers are, right, as far as their ranking. Illinois lost by 71 total points in their 2 losses. 4 versus 71. That's a big difference to me. So, yeah, not all losses are created equal. Sorry, Illini fans. They're probably going to get beat by Washington this week anyway, so it's going to be a moot point here real soon.
Yeah, and again, just looking at the win-loss column and say, well, we've got 2 losses. We had to play 2 tough teams. You lost by 53 to Indiana at home, by the way. At home. You lost by 53 points to Indiana. Like you said, Notre Dame lost its 2 games by a grand total of 4 points, and both of those teams are ranked in the top 5 right now. Illinois' game with Indiana wasn't as close as 4 points after the first quarter. So you can't sit here and say, well, we've got 2 losses too, and we had to play 2 tough teams. You lost by multiple touchdowns in both of those games. And, the one thing I will give to Illinois is in losing to a pair of ranked teams, they joined Notre Dame in terms of, they have lost to Ohio State and they have lost to Indiana. They are the only other team besides Notre Dame to play a pair of teams ranked in the top 5 so far this season, or even in the top 10 this season. So I will give them the fact that they have, played, a fairly difficult slate so far, but you lost by 53 points at home. I'm sorry. Right. There's a big difference between that and what Notre Dame did, losing 2 points. One of the points that, in their 4 points that they lost by was, bad, not a bad snap, but a drop snap on an extra point attempt.
Yep. I mean, it's been a little bit of an adventure with the hold, snap, kick, situation for Notre Dame.
Right.
But again, 4 points, 71 points. How can anybody with a straight face even have that argument? And to your point, yes, they played a tough team. I get it. But you didn't even show up for that game. You didn't even show up.
I know.
I mean, it was a sieve. Their defense was an absolute sieve in that game. So, yeah, there's not much of an argument there for me. I'm sorry.
No, exactly. Yeah, completely illegitimate argument. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, more rapid fire, more Notre Dame. You'll hear some comments from Marcus Freeman about Dallas Golden, about Leonard Moore in that nickel position in this matchup with USC, some short yardage stuff, and more. That's all coming up when we continue Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com and Rapid Fire. We continue Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com along with Vince DeDario. I'm Sean Stires on a beautiful fall day in South Bend. And by beautiful, of course, I mean cold and wet.
I mean, there's a nice crisp feeling in the air, Sean.
Yeah.
It's fall. And
this is day 3 of hoodies for me.
Yeah, man.
In here.
I got the pullover, yeah, it feels good. I dig it, man. I'm here for it. Not here for the rain.
No.
Cool, crisp.
Rain kind of annoyed me this morning. Cold rain, I'm not a fan of cold rain.
I'm with you. I'm 100% with you on that one. I'm a little nervous about Saturday with the rain. It's from a viewing standpoint, not from any kind of gameplay standpoint, but like I got a game at 1:00. Might be sitting in the rain. I don't like sitting in the rain to watch a game, So we'll see.
Got to take your what do you call it? Rain parka, whatever those things are.
I'll be fully rain geared out. Yeah, I got the pants, the jacket, the boots, the whole nine. So if I pack all that, it's guaranteed not to rain. So
of course,
yeah.
So Notre Dame's nickelback Devontae Smith, of course, missed last week's game with an ankle. He's listed as questionable still for this week. Marcus Freeman was asked this week about his confidence in Dallas Golden at nickel, as well as the possibility of using Leonard Moore against USC slot receiver Makai Lemon. And here is what Marcus Freeman had to say about that.
A lot of confidence in Dallas. He played really well. You look at the entirety of the game, obviously the explosive for a touchdown can't happen, and he knows it, and we got to keep playing with the proper technique, but he's getting better, and we have a lot of confidence in him if he has to be out there, and obviously have confidence in Smitty, and then we got to just make sure we have a good plan, right? That meant moving Leonard Moore there. It means moving Leonard Moore there, but you also know that you got a lot of confidence knowing Leonard Moore is at corner, right, and that side of the field being taken care of, and so it's always like, do you rob Peter to pay Paul, right? And we just got to make sure that we have a great plan. We can't be insane either, right? We can't just let the same thing happen and say maybe next time. Like, we got to have a really good plan and know, kind of think how they're going to try to attack us too.
I mean, he left the door open for Leonard Moore there, but as he said, you can't rob Peter to pay Paul. Do you think that Leonard Moore would actually, if Devontae Smith is out, let's approach it that way first. If Smith is out, do you think Leonard Moore would actually see any time over Makai Lemon there in the slot?
I am inclined to say no, that I don't think that he will be there. But I like the fact that he put it out there because that USC is listening to the press conference. That they're thinking about everything that Marcus Freeman is saying. And so I like the fact that he put it out there, even if it's a play or two, kind of a wrinkle or something like that. They've at least put it in the heads of USC. So I dig it. I just don't know that I see it happening.
By the way, since you mentioned the press conference, have you ever noticed how USC is obviously located in Los Angeles, entertainment capital of the world, Hollywood, whatever. Notre Dame is in South Bend, Indiana, a fraction of the size of Los Angeles. But the quality of and the setup of the press conferences at Notre Dame, like you would think it is still 1980 the way USC runs a press conference.
Really?
Oh, my gosh. Give me a break.
Oh, I need to check that out now so I can make fun of them some more.
Man. Yeah. It's like, are we, just walking up to Lou Holtz out there after practice? Come on. Can we mic this thing up? Can we make it look good? Tell us about all your travel problems.
It doesn't take a whole lot of
conference, right?
It doesn't take a whole lot of technology to make a press conference sound good.
No, it doesn't. It does not, Vince.
Just saying.
A lot of people have that figured out, but for some reason, USC lags behind. I would think that, like the Leonard Moore thing, like if you're really having, like if Devontae Smith is out, Dallas Golden is having a hard time covering. You've talked about a safety and maybe some bracket coverage and, at the least, safety help, whatever it happens to be. I would think if you're in a close game and you're in the fourth quarter, maybe you see more of Leonard Moore in that situation. If you feel like you need to lock him down, if Makai Lemon has had a big game, and you want to make sure that he's not going to be the difference in the game in the fourth quarter. Maybe then you see more of Leonard Moore. Like that feels like it to me, but I feel like they're gonna do what they can, and I think that, you know, as you said, more safety help, doing some of those different things. I think that is more the order, because USC has other good receivers as well. You know, like we found that out last year when some guys with no names, you know, just started popping off the charts. And, you know, like Jacoby Lane can go out and hit you as well. Zacharias Williams doesn't have a lot of catches, but when he gets downfield, he's averaging over 26 yards per reception, you know. So like they've got some other guys who can get you. So I don't think you can devote everything to stopping one guy necessarily. Now, the other aspect is, if Devontae Smith is healthy, is it really just a matter of Devontae Smith is on lemon all night? Most of the night?
Yeah, I mean, yes. I do think that, and I also think that the name of the game to me is just mixing up the coverages. You know, you're going to bracket them. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. You're going to play tight. You're going to play off. You're going to, like, I would mix it up as much as possible. Like that's what I would do. And yeah, maybe every once in a while I'll throw Leonard Moore, but I like your idea. Is okay, we're getting late in the game. We don't want this guy to beat us. We're going to put our best. It's going to be best on best, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I dig that.
Yeah, exactly. So Tommy Guns had some questions from the mailbag portion that we kind of ran out of time with in the first hour, but it relates to some of this. He asked, do you try to take away the best offensive weapon from the start, bracket lemon, or perceived best player, or try to play straight up first possession and adjust from there?
So I guess my way of playing it straight up would be also taking away their best offensive weapon. So,
right.
You know what I mean? Like that's all kind of encompassing. I'm gonna show my cards right away. Like, look, this is what we're gonna do. This is the defense we're gonna play. You know, and then I'm gonna mix it up as we go. But I'm not gonna be.
I wouldn't want to take my chances with Dallas Golden just straight up one-on-one with Lemon, and that be my strategy, and not have any safety help for him. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I would never do that. That's not fair to him. You know, I would definitely have some help for sure.
Absolutely. And I think you're gonna mix up coverages, and you know you're gonna give Mailbag as many looks as possible, and you're gonna try to give their receiving, you know, their receivers as many different looks as possible. As well.
Confuse Mailbag. That's what you want to do. Confuse him. Confuse these receivers with what, you know, when they have option routes and all of those different things. Like, you don't want them on the same page. You want him to second guess, and the longer he takes to throw the football, the more of a chance you have of knocking him down with your front. So all those things are good for Notre Dame.
Tommy also asks, would you prefer attempting to lessen what USC does well and allow them to do more if what they don't do well, or eliminate what they don't do as well and try to limit what they do well?
Okay. So this is basically saying, do you focus on stopping the pass and you allow them to kind of run the ball maybe a little bit more like that?
Kind of going back to the Al Golden, right?
I think that's
focus on taking away the pass,
right,
even if that means you're going to give up some rushing yards.
Right. And I don't have a problem if that's the case. I didn't have a problem when Al Golden did it. I wouldn't have a problem if they did it that way this time around. I just like the way the run game defensively has looked so far. And, you know, but I don't feel like they're doing that and then ignoring the pass game either. So, I mean, just keep doing what you're doing. Like that's where I'm at. Just keep doing what you're doing.
It's worked these last 3 games. So why not try to stick with what has worked these last 3 games? And that has included, more disruptiveness up front at the lines of scrimmage. And we talked about that. Who has the advantage? I do think it is still advantage Notre Dame, even though there are more questions on both sides of the line for Notre Dame, especially when you consider the fact that they are going to be without Ashton Craig in this game, and how Joe Otting holds up. That will be a question that they're going to have to answer in this game. And somebody else that we haven't mentioned this week is a guy like Elijah Hughes, who transferred from USC and has been playing really well in the role that he's had these last few weeks. So
yeah,
maybe look for a big game from that big dog in the middle of the defensive line there.
Big dog. Let the big dog eat.
That's right. That's right. Tom says the bowels of the LA Coliseum are a bit tricky to negotiate for the press and the fans. It's been a while since I've been there, but I've been to the Coliseum 3 times when we used to go out there in the early aughts. And Notre Dame women's basketball used to go out there, for those Thanksgiving weekend games, and they would play Friday night, and then we would stay over for the football game Saturday and then fly back afterwards. So I would be out there, and from what I understand, I haven't been out there in about not quite 20 years, but like 17, 18, maybe something like that. From what I understand, the Coliseum and the setup hasn't changed much since then. What I remember is a rank smell on the outside and a post-game press conference room that is probably smaller than the room that I am sitting in right now. Probably smaller than the room you're sitting in right now, Vince. A virtual closet is where they would hold those press conferences.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And not surprising.
Again, 21st century.
Mm-hmm.
So Marcus Freeman also asked this week about some of the short yardage woes, and he was asked if one of the running backs besides Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price could be an option in short yardage situations. And here's Marcus Freeman's answer to that.
It's not a shot against Jabron or Aeneas. Those guys are fully capable of going in there in short yardage situations and executing what they're coached to do. But Jeremiah Love and J.D. Price are fully capable of executing what their coach asked to do. It's not that. It's that, okay, we got to have a better plan. We got to have a better plan offensively in those short yard situations, and we will, right? And then, I look at both fourth down plays that we had in the game. They probably had a better call defensively than we had offensively, right? We run a sprint out. They had a good defense for that. We got to make them work. That's the other side of things. We tried to, run Malachi on a crack and go, and they had him covered. We thought they were going to be coming up for the run and try to get Malachi behind him. They covered him. We got to make it work, all right? And that's the next challenge. We're going to do everything in our power to scheme things that can help us to have success. But at some point, you got to make the plays work, and that's what we got to continue to focus on.
So he's kind of saying what we've been saying is play calling just needs to be better. The scheme needs to be to make it happen.
And he made it very clear it's going to be one of those two guys that are going to be in the game. They're not going to a third down back. They're not going to a short yardage back. It's Love or Price. I don't disagree with them. Those guys can do it. It's fine. You don't need to have a niche, spot for one. Now, one of those other guys might feel differently, because they want to play. But I don't see it as an issue. Let those guys eat. I'm fine with it. That part of it. But it's the play calling. Scheme it up, scheme it better.
I mean, it's the play calling, but it's also they haven't been able to get a yard when they just need to get a yard in those short situations. And I think that's what's, again, you expect that Notre Dame just to out physical some of these teams and just push them off the line, and that hasn't always happened. And even the running backs, ND Forever 72 is saying, wonder if that answer would have been different if they had Kedron Young. What do you think? If they have Kedron Young, is he the answer in short yardage? Do you think that they're taking Love and or Price off the field in those situations?
No, I don't, because I don't think that it's the running back. The running back is not the issue. They're getting hit in the backfield. Running back's not the problem. I don't think that's the issue, personally.
I don't either. And I think that J1 Sider has also shown that he's going to lean on those two guys. Those are their best running backs. Jeremiah Love, we know that he can be physical as well as jump guys and go around them. Part of his thing is, I think, just a little more patience. And again, maybe not trying to deliver the contact, but slither, around some of that contact in those short yardage situations. He's more than willing to get his shoulder in there and hit somebody, but you don't necessarily need to hit somebody when you've got the kind of body and skill set that he's got. You don't always have to do that.
Yeah,
but
agreed.
Yeah, I don't feel like I feel like with the philosophy that Sider has, he's going to lean on Love and Price as much as possible. He wants them on the field as much as possible, and I don't think that he would be deferring to another running back even if Keydron Young was healthy, personally.
Yeah, I completely agree. He has shown in his past, going back to that team that shall not be named, that he plays 2 running backs.
Yeah.
And I don't see that being any different here.
Yeah, exactly. Andre says, I think we're just Riley Leonard spoiled. I think that, the team became Riley Leonard spoiled. That's why they were so successful more than 70% of the time on those 4th downs last year. And they're successful less than half of that right now because you don't have Riley Leonard. And that's why you've seen them try the Wildcat, and they're trying all these different things. And that's what they've got to get figured out, but like, if you're not going to run for it, which I have no problem with them not running for it if they don't think they can get it, you just have to have better play design on those rollouts that Marcus Freeman was talking about. Because in both cases, I think he was rolling to the short side of the field, into the boundary, and there weren't that many it was just a crammed, condensed space. They've got to do a little bit better scheming that thing up to give him some options where he's going to go with that.
Yep, absolutely agree. Absolutely agree.
Busted my microphone.
Oh, gee, God, that's why we can't have nice things.
I know. We'll take a timeout and then back to wrap up the show with some more rapid fire Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. We're winding down Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com. I'm Sean Stires, along with Vince DeDario. Jolly old show here today.
Radio Gold, Jerry.
Yeah, that's right. It's gold. It's gold, I tell you. Notre Dame hosts Southern Cal Saturday night, 7:30. You'll hear it right here on Sports Radio WSBT. Game day coverage. The Game Day show is from 3 to 6:30 Eastern Time, live from the Linebacker Lounge. Tim Growl, Jimmy Rosari, Eric Hansen, Tyler Horka, they'll all be there. They'll welcome great guests, and this week's guests include former Notre Dame and Indianapolis Colts safety Matthias Farley, former Fighting Irish linebackers Torian Smith and Carlo Calabrese as well. So join them at the Linebacker, 3 o'clock Eastern Time until 6:30. Have fun. Notre Dame Southern Cal this Saturday night. Brian says he dislikes the Wildcat as well. What if we did like 2009 with Allen and Tate? Keep Price and Love on the field, motion, or even with Faison motioning as well. Thoughts on that?
I mean, if you're going to put, both the running backs in the backfield and take CJ Carr off the field, and then you could do some different things with Faison, yeah, I'm all for it. Faison used to be a quarterback.
Well,
okay, that's fine if you want to do something like that. I don't like the way they were doing the Wildcat, having a lead blocker.
Or it doesn't have to be Wildcat. It can be because it's short yardage, right? So what if you've got CJ Carr, Jeremiah Love to his left, Jadarian Price to his right? Now you've got two backs, and you can't lock in on one guy. On
absolutely
what they're going to do. And now you got a little counteraction maybe going to the, whatever it happens to be. I think that might be a better option. Like we've seen dabblings of some 20 and 21 personnel. Maybe that's your short yardage package, is just having Carr and both the running backs out there together. So there's not one guy to focus on.
I would be much more okay with that than what we've seen.
Correct.
So far this season. Much more.
I would as well.
Yeah, I'm good.
Chris Galloway, haven't seen as much of him lately. Hello. He wants to know if you're coming to the tailgate Saturday, Vince.
I am not coming to the tailgate because my family and I will be heading up to Hillsdale because Dylan is making his first start of the season.
Nice. Big news. Breaking news.
Yeah, big time news. So he's going to make his first start, and we're going to head up and watch him do his thing. So send good thoughts his way, just in case.
All right, I have this long Kirk Herbstreit question to ask you. Kirk Herbstreit, of course, he's been doing double duty, College Game Day and working as ESPN's lead game analyst for a long time. Game Day was at Oregon last Saturday, but ESPN had to put him on a private jet so he could fly to Dallas for the Texas-Oklahoma game. So while he was in transit, ESPN kept him on the show. They showed him while he was driving, with the dog, of course, in the back seat, on the video while he's driving to the airport. And then when he was on the plane, he was, still doing the College Game Day show as well. But the problem was the connections, of course, were choppy. The screen kept freezing. The show became more about Kirk Herbstreit than actually about college football. They also had Andre Ware on standby to do the show, and in case something crazy happened. So sports media reporter Andrew Marchand says that it's disrespectful to be doing this, and that ESPN needs to ask themselves if Kirk Herbstreit is the only one who can do this job. What do you think about all this, Vince?
I think the term disrespectful is a little harsh.
Maybe a little bit too far. Yeah.
Yes, I do think it went a little
disrespectful to the audience, I think, is maybe what he's saying.
I could see that because look, if you want him to be on College Game Day and you want him to be the lead analyst, cool. I get that. That's fine. And you can't really tell ahead of time where College Game Day is going to be from week to week because of how things go down. So I understand that the logistics can be difficult. Well, if you want him to be at that game, once he walks off set, it's over.
He's gone. Yeah,
it's over. Put somebody else.
He's not the show. Game Day is supposed to be the show, and the whole thing. I think that's part of Marchand's point. Yeah,
right. Yeah, just let it go. It's I get they're trying to have a kind of a fun, we're going to follow Kirk and it's going to be this and it's going to be that. but your technology stinks.
Right.
So like if that once
because
that
you're basically using a cell phone to do it at that point, which everyone's going to have problems with that.
Pull the plug. It's over. Yeah. Like it's not going to work. Now go to your backup plan and let's talk about football, not about his signal.
If he's going to travel, he's going to travel. You've got enough other guys on set between Desmond Howard and Nick Saban and Pat McAfee, as well as some of the other people that they've got there. You've got enough other people to do it. The other option is, okay, Kirk Herbstreit has to be in Dallas. We'll just send him to Dallas and put him up there in the booth and put a camera in front of him and let him do his part of the show from there. He might not get the same atmosphere as, if he's sitting with the game day crew,
good call.
But he would have a good quality connection and he could be part of the show. There are very few guys who do both of these things, both the studio show before the game and the game itself. Herbstreit, whether you love him or hate him, he is good at both, but there are very few guys who do both. So if you're going to ask him to travel, nobody cares about the travel part of it. Nobody cares about Kirk Herbstreit in the car with his dog or on the jet with his dog. Like you said, once he's off the set, he's off the set, but it feels like the easy solution is just send him to the game that he's supposed to be at. You've got cameras and everything else there anyway. Just let him do his part of the show from there. McAfee does it on Fridays with his show a lot when, like when game day is out, he'll be on location. The rest of his crew is still in their studio in Indianapolis. It shouldn't be that difficult. And, like nobody wants to see all these glitches. They just want to get the content that they're there for.
And it's really sad in this day and age that you can't get a better signal, especially when you're, the worldwide leader and all of those things. Like,
exactly. And if you can't, you shouldn't be trying to pull it off like this.
Correct. Like, give it a shot. And when it clearly wasn't working, it's time to move on.
Yep, exactly. All right, Vince. Well, that's going to do it for us today. Appreciate you as always. Vince will be back for a little cameo at the start of tomorrow's show, like speaking of people doing double duty. So I will talk to you then, my friend. We'll talk to you later. We'll hear some comments from Marcus Freeman tomorrow. Great questions in the mailbag earlier today. We'll talk to you later. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com.